2024 has easily been one of the craziest years in music. From the beefs to the washed up superstars to the arrests and trials. It's just been a lot. So much so that almost out of nowhere, Tyler the Creator has popped out with his new album, Chromakoooopia. But before I talk about the album, everything that's happened this year also made me think about how much can happen in the span of someone's career. One of my favorite aspects of artistry of all kinds is watching how artists grow. The way in which their life experiences and really the passage of time impacts the art that they put out. Sometimes for the better and other times for worse. So much worse. Tyler is one of my favorite artists of all time, and his evolution has been really interesting for me to witness and a big reason for it. With this album and all the promo that came along with it, it was giving off vibes that he hadn't really given off before. So I wanted to go back and really see how far he's come. So I did go back, like all the way back. You see, I'm pretty concrete about what my favorite Tyler projects are, which meant that for a long time I hadn't given a lot of attention to his earlier work. I would pretty much just hear people talk about how edgy it is, so I just shrugged it off. But this time around, I actually sat down and listened to both Bastard and Goblin. And both of them were kinda hard to listen to. It could have been how edgy the lyrics were. It could be the fact that I wasn't there back then when these dropped because I was in elementary school, or it could be me knowing the artist that Tyler is now. They aren't really for me. But with him being in his late teens and early 20s, you can tell that his feelings are real because he is very angry. There were some songs I liked, like 7, which I recognized as Berleezy's outro on some of his videos. No! Odd Toddlers, Session, and Inglorious. Those ended up being the ones that I'd actually go back and listen to. But I couldn't imagine bumping a song like Blow in the car with the windows down. It has a good beat though, I can't lie. And a lot of these songs have some really good beats. Overall, it's some pretty impressive production for a first project. But the whole thing can be so dark and edgy at times. And it kinda dilutes the goodness that I could find. I pretty much feel the same way about Goblin too. Even though it's freaky as hell, she will always be a banger. The production quality did go up, but that edge is still there. Arguably even worse because of a song like Tron Cat. Victim, honey, you're my 5th one. Realistically, even if I do go back to listen to the songs from this era, it wouldn't be often. But I have to respect these two because all of the edginess requires a level of self-awareness and sophistication he was able to master at a young age. And the lyricism, no matter how crazy it might have been, was definitely there. Tyler was young and he needed an outlet to vent, and did so in a way that managed to really pay off. He also managed to be bold enough to do something like this, which makes you feel like he was destined to do something big, you know? Odd Future also slowly but surely started to rise too, and that's thanks to them being a group that are just as bold and believe in themselves and the potential to reach a big enough audience. So even though I don't like these albums as much as the others, without them we obviously wouldn't have the Tyler that we have today. And I'm able to see aspects of them in the songs that I really do enjoy so much that ended up coming out later on. So after the angst and consumption of cockroaches, we get to what I call the blossoming period with Wolf and Cherry Bomb. The beat selections on both of these albums are great, and I enjoy the both of them on pretty much the same level, but each one has different things for me to go back for. Even though Wolf is along the same storyline as Bastard and Goblin, it feels a lot more laid back and a project I can turn on when I just want to hear him get some bars off. To me, it also marks the first shift in what Tyler's going for. He eased up on the edge a little bit, even though it's definitely still there.
Went to Six Flags.
But you can tell he's a bit more focused on telling a story, so you see that he's matured a bit. A song like Answer was one of those early instances where we see him being insanely honest with his audience, and we even get to see it get followed up on in Chromakoooopia. This was the first old Tyler album I went back to during quarantine, but after a revisit, I actually ended up liking some more songs that I did before. It's solid, and a lot of people love it for reasons that I can completely understand. And personally, I'll probably revisit it anytime I feel like getting more out of it. Then, with Cherry Bomb, this is Tyler's Yeezy.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Kidding. It is getting pretty annoying to see any untraditional or different album that an artist makes be boiled down to their own Yeezus. But Cherry Bomb is pretty different. Some of the songs on this one just sound crazy, like Death Camp or Cherry Bomb. This album also was like the biggest test of Tyler's production and his ear up to this point. And what's even crazier is the features that he has on this one. From Erykah Badu to Charlie Wilson and Pharrell, this was the biggest sign that he was moving up in the world and doing so in a big enough way that some of the biggest people in the industry wanted to work with him. And obviously, I cannot forget a jewel like the song Smuckers. This was one of the first Tyler songs I ever heard because it came on randomly on Shuffle on Spotify or something. And it was so casually one of the best rap songs I ever heard. Everyone cooked. This era is interesting to me because you see him peeking his head into the mainstream a bit more in a bunch of ways. Loiter Squad had been going on for a bit at this point too, and the fact that him and some of the other Odd Future members were able to land a show on a network like Adult Swim will always be one of the coolest things ever to me. With all his continuous growth, an overall increase in the quality of his craft, and more recognition from fellow artists and the public, Tyler just kept going up, and let's just say, some flowers started to bloom. Hey, that was a good one, right? Yeah, thank you. I'm here all night. This is the era where I discovered Tyler. All of these years on YouTube, I'd type in a T into the search bar and his name would pop up, but I had no reason to ever click on it because I didn't know who he was. But during my musical awakening between 8th and 9th grade, I found him, and it just so happened to be the time where he started discovering himself too. I wanted to call this the rebirth, but I realized that was a little too dramatic because he's really the same Tyler from the past 4 projects. But what we get with Flower Boy is a new window into who he is because he gets so much more honest. Whether it was him talking about the come up he went through on Where This Flower Blooms, or some of his insecurities and paranoia that come along with the new spotlight on November, Tyler was spitting some real all over the album. It was a great way to usher in a new era and a version of Tyler doing what he does, but now in a more refined way that also felt a little more accessible to many more people. I struggled writing this video because I didn't want to talk too much because I truly do love these last like 4 albums, including Chromakoooopia, but this next one right here, I had to truly contain myself. I could talk about Igor for hours. Igor is easily one of my favorite albums of all time. Peak writing, peak artistry, peak vision, peak, okay? It was the very first album rollout I actually followed, which was special enough on its own, but it was also just an out-of-body experience for my 10th grade self. Up until that eve of May 17th, 2019, I had simply never heard music sound like that. Then I found out Tyler wrote, produced, and arranged everything on the album. I hadn't been impressed like that in a while, and I told myself when I started to collect records, Igor had to be one of them. He manages to tell this love story that is specific to him, but also accessible enough for you as the listener to be able to take things away from it. The songs also just are amazing. I truly believe this is probably his best production. New Magic Wand is and always will be one of the best things I've ever listened to. When I heard it live, I almost just started bawling. It's beautiful. The way the album loops to kind of represent this infinite, endless cycle that is love, how it's not always perfect, how there's chasing, all is so impressive. Everything went up 1,000 times with this album. Ever since it's come out, it's been my favorite album from him. Chromakoooopia may or may not have changed that, but we'll talk about it soon. I was really happy when he got to perform at the Grammys and ended up winning, even though it's not a rap album, but that's another convo. And I'll also never forget DJ Khaled beefing with him after it beat him out for #1. That's the power of mysterious music and really just doing your own thing. Call Me If You Get Lost was so interesting because it was such a different aesthetic to Igor, but honestly, it's Igor in a different package. It's still honest, it's still real, but now he's flexing on you because he's so heartbroken that buying new things and taking trips are the only way he can cope with his feelings. It really is a great summer album and came out the day after I graduated high school, which made it so much more of a vibe. The personas that he created for all of his albums have easily been one of the best parts of witnessing Tyler as a creator. But these 3 albums specifically showed Tyler off as this guy who is insanely skilled at what he does and also insanely underrated. It felt crazy to me that it took Call Me If You Get Lost for people to really start paying attention to him, but I'm just happy he started getting his flowers. His artistry just jumped so high, and it's something that still impresses me now, even after the release of Chromakoooopia. To some extent, he's removed himself from the topics these characters dive into, but at their core, everything goes back to him. So eventually we get the estate sale, which was cool. A deluxe next album from Tyler was weird and definitely unexpected, but also very much welcomed, and I was just happy to have some new Tyler music. He ended up releasing the song Sorry Not Sorry, and it also had a music video to go along with it. This song is another one of my favorites from Tyler. Sonically, he's giving out a bunch of apologies ranging from completely sincere to completely sarcastic. In the video itself, we see all of his personas over the years, rounded up in what I can only assume is his mind. Each one of them spits some of the bars in the song, but it all comes down to this entirely different Tyler coming in and basically killing all of these old versions of himself. In general, the song and the video were pretty deep, but it left a lot of people wondering what it could mean for the next one. And we didn't get a direct answer, but chromakoooopia came out.
You are the light. It's not on you, it's in you.
When I tell you I needed chromakoooopia, I mean I needed it, and I didn't really know how much I did until it came out. But I do know that I need you to like and subscribe. 4K's right there. Gotta get to this tour somehow. Thank you kindly. This is a marvelous album, man, and I'll be saying that a lot, so I'm warning you now. After we got the estate sale last year, I thought that was going to be Tyler's entry that keeps the whole 2-year Fast and Furious streak going, but then this album rollout came out of nowhere, and it was done masterfully. Can you imagine an artist who announced something like 4 years ago at this point, and there still hasn't been anything to come from it? That would be crazy, right? When I first made this joke, it took me days to realize that it could apply to A$AP Rocky too. And that man might be just as bad as Playboi Carti. Tyler said, here's a snippet with a music video, here's a website, here's a release date, some trucks going around the US, and I'm just gonna keep doing more until it's out. It's so simple, but it seems so crazy because of how planned out it was. I think I truly love every song on this album. Off the snippet alone, Saint Chroma easily became one of my favorite Tyler songs, and hearing the full thing when it came out just cemented that. It also made me notice that he's really good at doing intros. Darling I sounded like pure bliss and the greatest summer day of all time, but had lyrics that were kinda depressing on some Hey Ya vibes. I Killed You not only had crazy track placement, but was this really good discussion about the death of tradition while also tackling the difficulties of black hair care. Thought I Was Dead and Sticky got some of the best horns of all time, with Tyler and other features just getting their bars off. And I Hope You Find Your Way Home ends up being another great Tyler outro and some of my favorite rapping from him on the album. This whole album fully expanded on the honesty from the past in a way I did not expect at all. That whole evolution idea I mentioned before was on full display, and that's always a guarantee with albums like this. I loved hearing Tyler talk about his imperfections and dive into how some of the crazy things he's gone through have stuck with him today. It was like Kanye tackling his bipolar disorder on the album Ye, and Kendrick unpacking his trauma both generational and through the life he's lived on Mr. Morale, which in part inspired Tyler's direction for this album. I'm a big fan of when artists just show that they're people too. I feel like chromakoooopia's cracked my top 3, but I don't know. A part of me wants me to call it his best, but I just love Igor too much to say it. It is amazing though, don't get me wrong, so it might be number 2. It's a great mix of old and new. I think the track list is arranged perfectly. You get a gut punch in a song like Him, and then get a song like Balloon to cheer you up afterward and lift that heaviness a bit. I'm happy that he lied about features being on the album because the surprise features simply made that first listen even better. Like I said, everyone was doing their thing. When Sticky came on that first time, I went crazy. Glorilla was great. I don't like Sexy Red, but she did her thing too. And even though Lil Wayne got on and said nothing of substance, it was still fire. Schoolboy Q on Thought I Was Dead, fire. Even the cases where someone like Daniel Caesar or Childish Gambino were just doing backing vocals made the song sound incredible. I've always loved Tyler's production, but he outdid himself once again on this one. The only song I didn't really like initially was Balloon because it threw me off, and hearing every couple of lines was making me laugh too much, but it's also grown on me too. Doechii was a great feature, and it was nice of Tyler to put her on. Definitely an amazing project and probably my favorite out of what I've heard this year. With the way my brain works and I guess making videos now, I always think about the greater meanings of whatever I'm watching or listening to, and I was in overdrive for this album. I believe the persona for this one is Saint Chroma, who might have been seen all the way back in that Sorry Not Sorry video. Most of the time he's wearing a mask, sometimes he's not, and a lot of the time whenever we see him the world is devoid of color, and trying to figure him out has been a little difficult. Flower Boy could be seen as Tyler's inner self who is so shy to be revealing all of these things that he can't even look at you. Igor is this figure that's on a desperate pursuit of love, and Sir Baudelaire has everything he wants and the ability to get even more, but still finds himself unsatisfied. So Chroma was kinda confusing at first. The mask told me that he was hiding something, but then sometimes it would be off. And Tyler actually said at a listening party the night of the release that he wore the mask because he felt like he was being so honest on the album, which makes sense. A song like Hey Jane was something I couldn't believe I was listening to. But again, I was like, why does he take the mask off? So I had this theory about some of the songs and how they relate to it. To me, the slower parts of songs and slow songs in general felt like ones where the mask was on because of how much he was telling us, while the more up-tempo, fast ones and fast parts felt like the mask was off because they had some things that we already knew about Tyler. And I'm fully basing this off something like the Thought I Was Dead video versus Noid, for example. But then there are points in the Noid video where he has the mask off. So even if I'm completely wrong, I like that there was a range of vibes on the album. I also asked myself, what is chromakoooopia? And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know. I guess it's wherever these shipping containers and trucks are going. But I can definitely say when you look at it literally as an album and digest everything he talks about, it is the culmination of who Tyler is today. He sprinkled in these voice notes from his mom where she gives these bits of advice that all sounded like things my mom has told me. And they help show you some of the inspiration behind why he moves the way that he does. The song Noid was a perfect single to put out in the lead up to this album because it teased a lot of what he talks about. Some of that advice from his mom, causing his own paranoia, to the experiences and simply being a celebrity that add on to it even more. He continues to reflect on who he is as a person and his experiences all over the album. Then with a song like Tomorrow, he talks about time passing and how it can not only impact you, but your loved ones and really everyone who surrounds you. With that song and the general energy of the album, Tyler simply recognizes that he's getting older, which makes songs like Him and Take Your Mask Off hit so different. A lot of people assumed he was dissing someone specifically on Take Your Mask Off, but a lot of what he says applies to a bunch of people and definitely himself. And it reflects how at his age he knows that it's just best for him to be true to himself. On the flip side, Him was not only a great dialogue about the impact of absent fatherhood, but had an absolute bomb drop at the very end with his mom. Tyler not growing up with a dad had been such a prominent part of who he is, and then we find out that his dad wanted to be there the whole time. It felt like a plot twist out of a soap opera or something, bro. Everything about chromakoooopia was just so good. It's different from what we've gotten before and a lot different from what I expected, but that's not bad at all. With everything leading up to it, I thought it was going to be a lot darker, but I'm happy that it wasn't. It makes you want to cry, sure, but it also makes you want to get turned. I don't even want to put a number on it, just listen to it. It's peak. I decided to redo the ending of this video because it's almost been a month since I wrote and recorded everything. Life is crazy. Kendrick somehow dropped a surprise album like 5 minutes after I recorded. GNX is immaculate, by the way. Playboi Carti still hasn't dropped after what has been a year-long rollout. Let's see how badly this ages. I don't mind getting proven wrong, but I don't think anything's dropping. This video is about Tyler anyway. After Igor, Tyler was already one of my goats. Call Me If You Get Lost just added on to that, and chromakoooopia has fully cemented that fact. I did not mean to talk about him as much as I have in this video, but whenever I think about Kanye still being my favorite artist despite everything, it's because he managed to evolve past strictly being an artist or a rapper or a producer. In my eyes, he is a full-on director. All of his albums, the good ones at least, have all curated these different experiences that transport you somewhere else. And Tyler has managed to accomplish the same thing. And in no way am I saying this to mean that Tyler is today's Kanye. I see people say that all the time. I disagree, not because I think Tyler's this untouchable figure, but because they're just two very different people. And Tyler has not shied away from the fact that Kanye is a big influence of his anyway, so no point in saying that, to me at least. For the millionth time, chromakoooopia is an amazing album, and its success has been huge. It's really weird to feel proud of someone that I've never met and probably never will, but I do feel proud of all the progress that Tyler has made, and his journey has been amazing to witness. And that's just me talking about the album side of things. Between the fashion, Can't Flog No, features, and just the general star power that he's been able to accumulate really shows you that calling him amazing is an understatement in describing everything that he's done. Remember when he pulled up to Kendrick's pop-out? You would have thought someone hit a game winner in Game 7 of the finals. Tyler is a star. I know the next album, whenever it comes out, will be just as good. Stream this album if you haven't already, and stream Tyler if you haven't, because either way, you're missing out big time. As always, thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves and have a good one.
Miami with your family, those your brothers, ayy. When we split apart, there's the love between our mothers, ayy. No, we ain't together, but whatever, I still fuck with you. Used to get the numbers, selling flights to get them dirty